This is a story about a $6,000 leather jacket that is now worth a single-digit percentage of that. This is the story of how a no-name brand, a brand you've never heard of, came to be stocked at some of the coolest stores in the world and worn by some of the coolest people in the world. This is the story of a new style of clothing, something that is taking over the American fashion scene. It's something that I and others are calling stylist core. This is a story of style over substance. It's a story of possibly industry plants. Yeah, we're back, baby. We're talking industry plants. I've already had hits on this topic between the brands Satoshi Nakamoto and Alice Hollywood. And are we back for a three-peat? Maybe we are. This is a crazy topic. I'm going to be naming names today, but let's reel it way back. Where did we start here? Well, it all started when I saw a listing from Lukes. Now, if you're not familiar, Lukes is one of the coolest luxury resale spots around, with locations in New York and LA, and of course online. Now, this piece that he was selling had a retail price of $6,000 US, and guess what? I bought it from him. But not for $6,000 US. I paid $450 US. And along with this listing, this grid post on Instagram, Luke included one of the spiciest captions I have ever read. It was a caption so spicy that I knew I had to get him on the horn, get him in this video to explain himself. So without further ado, here is Luke, and here is the caption that he wrote about that jacket.
This is one of those brands I would normally never take in and definitely wouldn't post, Coat or whatever, but I wanted to do a post about what I call stylist core, which is kind of, from my experience, a uniquely LA thing. The multi-brands here have like god-awful rich guy dickhead buys and buys tailor-made for celebrity and athlete stylists. Expensive and ugly for the sake of being expensive and ugly.
Now, I think it was at this point that Luke realized that reading Instagram caption grammar in real life just feels cringe, so I'll take over for him here. Not to say this isn't a well-constructed garment made out of beautiful materials or just like doesn't need to exist. Anyway, I'm gonna sell it for less than 10% of its original retail. Now, I think it goes without saying, that is one of the most savage Instagram captions I've ever read, especially for a piece that you yourself bought from somebody and are now trying to sell to somebody else. Like, the amount of confidence it takes to be like, I know I'm trying to sell this, but I'm going to insult it to all of your faces and then ask you for money for it. Like, one of my favorite replies to this caption was, imagine buying this for full price, not wearing it, then seeing the guy you sold it to post this. I would be sick. Yeah, that really just about sums it up, but I want to let Luke explain himself here. He went so hard, he must have a reason. What's all this about, right?
I wrote this caption because it's like one of those brands that like occasionally like a certain type of guy who has a lot of expensive shit will bring in, and you're like thumbing through shit and you're like, all right, ERD, like, oh sick, like this Prada's really good, or like rah and you're like, what the is this brand? You know, like, what is this shit? And then you're like, oh, it's like made in LA, it's really nice. And then like with this item, you're like, oh, it has a fucking H. Lorenzo tag. Like, that explains a lot. And that's the thing about like this brand that we're talking about, or all these other brands at H. Lorenzo or Maxfield. It's like, I don't know if these guys who are running these brands that are selling $3,000 coats worked for like Ralph Lauren or worked for someone else and like have experience in the industry. It's just like there's no narrative or anything around these brands, so it's impossible to tell besides like the like price tag and the like gaudy designs, right?
That was like one of the most insightful collections of statements about modern fashion I've ever heard. And this is kind of what I've been saying for a while now. This is why I've made my name on explaining why Los Angeles is a completely soulless source of modern fashion and style. It is the home of every modern fashion industry plant, and there's a reason for that, and he laid it all out really well here. Right here, we are talking about Cout de la Liberte, a brand really out to take off Henri J. Primé's lunch as far as most pretentious name goes. And they are an LA-based brand that is stocked at some of the coolest retailers in the world, and that's for very specific reason. Because Luke's talking about this entire incestuous relationship that goes on in LA, where there are cool guys that think they have a cool idea or can make some good money off of their connections in music or sports or fashion or celebrity more generally. They decide to start a brand, they make it very, very, very expensive, and then they go off to Maxfield, to H. Lorenzo, and say, I've got all of these connections, I've got all of these crazy expensive clothes, stock this stuff here, and I promise you, these stylists, these athletes, these rappers, they're gonna be taking this stuff off the shelves like you wouldn't believe, and it kind of works because it does sell like that in LA, and it slowly disperses to the rest of the world to one degree or another. And you might say, isn't that what all brands do? Maybe at a certain point, every brand started like this, but as Luke said, there's something missing from these brands, and he calls it narrative. I have a friend who calls it world building, and that's exactly it. There isn't any sort of soul here. When you put on a garment from, a Eddie Slimane brand, right? Or a Demna brand, or even ERD or heritage brands like Hermes, right? You get a feeling. You feel like you have just stepped into this brand's world because they have spent time building up and communicating what they are about, whether it's through editorials, their photography, the pieces themselves, the places that they're stocked, the places they go, the runway shows they do. All of this builds a world of the brand. All of these brands that you've never heard of until you walk into a Maxfield or scroll down the H. Lorenzo brand list on their website, they have not put in that work to do the world building. Maybe their stuff is made out of the greatest materials in the world, or maybe they have a huge, long history. They've worked for every big name designer under the sun, and now they're finally going out on their own, but we don't feel it when we put on the clothes. Yo, I need you to join the Patreon. The full chat with Luke is up there, exclusive videos, private Discord access with a great community. I'm even privately selling some of the pieces featured in this very video. Join the Patreon. Here's the thing though. All of this is incredibly aspirational. Maybe you can make a $6,000 orange suede jacket and sell it to one person or two people or 5 people at a price of $6,000 in Los Angeles. But the secondhand market, where Luke operates, it doesn't lie. It's the great equalizer in a way. So these pieces that sold at Maxfield for $6,000, what can they get on the secondhand market? The last part of your caption here, right? Anyway, I'm gonna sell it for less than 10% of its original retail. The original retail was like $6,000. I bought it from you for $450, right? There's no way you bought this for more than $350 because then the margin wouldn't make sense, right?
Correct.
So someone sold this to you for $350 or less when it has a retail price of $6,000. What?
I mean, it's like, so people break stuff in and it's like, this piece specifically came from another reseller who has been dealing with the former stylist of a rapper.
Okay.
And this came from that rapper as far as I'm concerned. So it's like, this shit was probably bought, maybe worn once, maybe wasn't worn at all. And he brings me a pile of shit and I'm like buying the Prada shit, I'm buying whatever. And I'm just like, dude, like, I know that this brand is like an H. Lorenzo brand. And I'm like, I'll take it, but you're not, like, I can't really give you that much money because I don't think it's worth anything. And they're like, whatever, you know, like, I just want to get rid of it. And so it's like, that's kind of how it went with this specific piece.
A garment is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. And I know that sounds obvious or cliche or whatever, but it's not always the quality, the materials, whatever, that dictates how much somebody is willing to pay. It's that world building. I mean, there was a time, maybe 5 to 7 years ago, where people were willing to pay much, much more for a Supreme piece that was made much worse for much less than they would for like a Zegna piece that cost 10 to 20 times more. And that's because at that time, Supreme had the story to tell. They were the upstart skate rat kids, made good, collaborating with luxury brands. It was something that people wanted to buy into, not to mention the scarcity that also builds that world. But in the internet age, we're looking at a world where all of these industry planty brands are being built up by these shops that really exist as incubators. A Maxfield and H. Lorenzo, even a Mr. Porter or a Market or Patron of the New, they're kind of bringing stuff up, bringing stuff out from LA, trying it out, seeing what hits, and going from there. Now, I think we've talked enough crap on Cout de la Liberte without actually looking at it. So we have much more to say, many more brains to call out here. But first, let's take a look at this $6,000 jacket that we have spent so much time talking about here. Is there more to it than meets the eye? Is that retail price actually worth it? Let's look at the details. As many people say, you can't knock it till you've tried it. $6K, $450, rough. But maybe we're missing something here. So what is this? What is this jacket even? This is the Dylan Soft Suede Saddle Stitch Jacket. So there's a lot to unpack here. This saddle stitch, they've done it for, embellishment here. Saddle stitch, I know, is something that like Hermes does on their leather bags, and that's like a hand stitch that makes things much more difficult and valuable. But here it's really done for effect rather than for construction purposes. I mean, I think it's machine stitched, and then this saddle stitching is, for embellishment. But just because something's for embellishment doesn't mean it's not good. Like, this is a very nice orange brown suede here with nice black leather, and you've got these big chunky buttons with the pockets up front. It's a very nice rear zipper here. All of that detailing goes along every single seam on the piece. Adjustments at the back here, except those are also for show. Those don't actually do anything. There's only one button there. That kind of says a lot. The inside is entirely silk lined in this crazy pattern silk. This is definitely Cout de la Liberte. Is that even how you say it? Cout de la Liberte, their kind of effort, I would say, at doing the Chrome Hearts Hermes line thing, you know? They're trying to earn that $6,000, okay? So H. Lorenzo, one of like the cool guy multi-brand boutiques, silk lined, calf skin, made of imported fabric in the USA. You're checking every single cool guy LA brand box here, you know? Does that mean it's worth it? That it's a very complicated discussion, but I have a couple other CDLL pieces. Are they at that level where they can be acronymed yet? I don't know. I have two more for us to look at, okay? This is like a, Sashiko bomber jacket, and it really contains the juxtapositions of this brand. So this material, I can tell, is crazy nice, okay? It's this plaid, stippled, it's got this Sashiko cross-stitching going throughout the entire thing, as you can see. And then there are these, like, repaired Sashiko patches here at various places. Very nice, clearly taking a lot of inspiration from these Japanese brands, of course. Like, in these boutiques, like, that Capital is selling really well. The Visvim is selling well. Let's do some of this. But listen, you gotta respect that they're doing it pretty well here. But then it's got like a blue fleece hood that I just don't know if it belongs. Like, I might just prefer if it was a regular bomber with this stuff, because you've got like the ribbed hem here and everything. And at the inside, you can see how the entire thing is done. Like, they've got machine stitching going throughout the entire piece, every single inch of it. That's pretty cool. But then you get to like the hem, okay, where the ribbing is, and it's just like a pretty like standard, serged hem right there. So all these things, they just don't necessarily make sense together. I think they are putting to the outward face a very premium look, but then maybe under the hood, there's a little bit, less going on, or a bit more to figure out to kind of get over the hump in being a brand that actually says something. And the last piece I want to show you here is a crazy like velvet Western shirt with the dual chest pockets. And I think the care tags here really tell the story that CDLL is trying to get across with all their stuff, because this is Italian viscose made in USA. So it's like a nice fabric from a nice place made in a premium location. All of it. They're trying to be like, this is good stuff that's made really well, okay? But is it? I don't know. You've got the snap buttons, the Eddie Slama Saint Laurent snap buttons. I feel like this is always the style that he was using. You've got these chest pockets. I'm sure this is a really difficult material to work with, but I don't know. It doesn't look that clean to me. Like, what is it? What is the stitching that's happening here? Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm sure whoever was making this piece was like, oh my God, this is the worst job I've ever been given in my life. So does it look good? Yeah, I think so. Does it fit well into a wardrobe of someone trying to do like rock and roll, Eddie Slama, cool LA guy stuff? Yeah, I'm sure it does. But it also has very much like new brand energy in some way. And yet it's already $6,000 and the rappers and athletes and stylists are already buying it. there are other like stylist core brands, I would say, out there, like Second Layer here. We've already taken a look at this piece right here, but at least Second Layer, listen, I think they lack a narrative in a similar way that CDLL do, but at least Second Layer is a bit more affordable. Like, I had a fan in Germany once be like, hey, can you buy this Second Layer tank top for me from Maxfield and send it to me? They wouldn't ship to him. So I was like, sure, this is gonna be so expensive, whatever. It was only $50 for a tank top from this brand, which is like, okay, at least they're not crazy price gouging here. Like a ERD tank top is $500-600, you know? Now, I want to be as clear as possible here. This is not just a coup de la Liberte problem, all right? You can go down these brand lists and find countless examples of brands that fall into this category, whether it's somebody like Second Layer, who we just talked about. On the high end, maybe it's somebody else like Libertine, and then on the more streetwear end, you've got this whole crop of brands piling up out of nowhere, whether it's Earthling VIP or Better with Age. These are brands that are tailor-made to the stylist rather than the average consumer. But where did this all start? There must be like a patient zero for Stylist Core, right?
Jerry Lorenzo is kind of like the progenitor of all these brands, where like the cool guy, kind of like nightlife, well-connected person in LA realizes that because there's so much clothing production in LA and they have connections with either, you know, athlete stylists, celebrities, just nightlife people, or people at these stores, that like they realize that they're able to like make a brand from scratch much more easily than they would any other place, I think, in the country, maybe even in the world, outside of like certain parts of Asia. And like, I think there's a much lower barrier of entry for like a cool guy to make a brand and to get it into a place that like incubates small brands.
Now, I'm lucky enough to have viewers that are deeply embedded within different areas of the modern fashion scene, so this was something that I actually learned quite a bit about after I did the video on Alice Hollywood. I had some people that are very involved in Los Angeles garment manufacturing really telling me how things work there, and it made things so much clearer for me, because apparently there are just so many clothing factories in LA, so many more than anywhere else in the US. So when you don't have that many factories in an area, the factories can be very picky. They can only take on projects by things that they think are going to be like big successes. Whereas in places with lots and lots of factories like Los Angeles, they're kind of, some of them, sitting around with their thumbs up their asses waiting for work to come in. So as soon as somebody with some money comes in, such as a cool guy with connections and startup money saying, hey, I've got an idea for a brand, the factory is going to be like, you're telling me to jump? How high? I'm on it. And that's really what's happening here, where any guy with a crumb of an idea who wants to make lots of money can find that manufacturing in the snap of a finger. Now, I really wanted to get the full idea of this stylist core scene, so I picked up some other pieces from other brands that I've called out here, because I wanted to know if there's anything at the core that's worthwhile. So let's check those out, because this is interesting. These are some pants from the brand Earthling VIP. Now, who is Earthling VIP? I don't really know. They're one of those brands that you may have just seen because they started popping up overnight on Instagram with famous people wearing them. Now, I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but these are like a fluo yellow, like tech fabric, kind of like a fake pony hair suede type of thing, but definitely very, very synthetic. And it's got these panels that I think are silk, which are cool. Nice, I like silk. Zippers, because why not? Like a bunch of colors that don't really work together. More bungees and zips at the ankle. And you get really no info here. Constructed with love, size small. It doesn't say where they're made. I hope they're made somewhere good, because they do have a retail price of like $800. I don't know, and I really don't know if these even like look any good or if they feel any good. I don't know. If you were just to like toss these to me and I feel them, look at them, I don't think I could tell you if they were a $2,000 pair of luxury bottoms or if they were like an off-the-shelf department store kind of rip-off type track pant athleisure thing. Like, I truly would not be able to tell, I don't think. If anybody wants to tell me what the identity is here, just let me know. What's that narrative? What's the world that's being built? And because I'm a glutton for punishment, I got a second Earthling VIP piece. And just at first glance here, this harkens back to a very different era of like streetwear and luxury, and I don't think in a good way. Like, to me, this looks like, I don't know, the older like Off-White or Heron Preston type stuff, but in kind of like a rip-offy way. Like, you know those Supreme rip-off shirts that just say like swag in the box logo? Or like a shirt with those like Off-White diagonal stripes and like a cause bear that isn't a cause bear and isn't branded to any of them. That's like the vibe that I kind of get here. I'm so sorry. But here's the weird thing here. Clearly they just took an old suede vest. It is real suede, at least this time. And then also just put Earthling VIP on here and then did all of the embroidery patches and stuff. The vest itself is great, like a really cool vintage fishing vest with these incredible zippers, more embroidery at the back. And listen, here is the really good news for me, is that this piece is one of one, so at the very least, I should be able to make some money on this. If you're interested, hit me up, because there's no way I'm keeping this. So at the end of the day, they found a vintage leather piece and did some embroidery on it. And while it is vintage, it's not even necessarily a very good one. Like, yeah, it's real leather, but it's lined in polyester, made in China. Like, it's not even that good vintage, you know? So this one just ain't doing it for me at all. I'm so sorry. I try to be nice, I really do. And then you've got brands like Nick Fuquet, Nick Fuquet, Nick Fuckit. Let's go with that. Like, yeah, Nick is maybe the preeminent cool LA guy hat maker, all right? His stuff is stocked at Maxfield and others. He has an ERD collaboration under his belt. He's doing biker boy leather hats with safety pins and matches on them. Like, that's cool guy stuff. I'm sure if a cool LA athlete, whatever, needs a cool felt hat of some kind, Nick is the guy that they're gonna go to, right? But at least he's a real one. Like, I found this hat on the secondhand market. I thought it was very cool, maybe fitting me better than most of his pieces that I've seen. But the problem was it didn't fit me. So on a whim, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, can you help me out? Like, this doesn't fit me. Can we do something? Can you make it fit me? I'll pay whatever. And he was like, just send it to me. Just pay for shipping. I'll size it for you. No worries. Even though I didn't even buy it from him, this is secondhand. I think that is very, very cool of him and shows that he's a real one. He's not just trying to make his bag. He just wants people to wear his stuff and think it's cool. And I respect that. So you might be Stylist Core, but at least you're a real one, you know? So clearly, we've got some winners and some losers here. Some, I think, are doing it right, and others are going for that cash grab, in my opinion, just trying to, you know, they're spinning that roulette wheel, hoping it hits red here. But that begs a greater question. You know, this stuff would not get sold. It wouldn't even get into these stores to begin with if there wasn't some type of demand for Stylist Core style clothing. So where is the demand coming from? Who are these people that are banging down these boutique doors saying, yes, give me the $6,000 suede jacket from a brand I haven't heard of. Give me the weird tech fabric track pants from a brand I've never heard of. Who is the cause of all this?
At a certain point, a certain type of person wants every single garment they have to be like a hero garment or like a statement piece. And like, you know, you look at like rappers or like tunnel fits and like every single thing on this person's a fucking statement piece. There's this like cottage industry now of like getting athletes dressed, and they have to get dressed, if you're a basketball player, 82 times a year, because you may get your photo taken 82 times a year for every single thing, plus you're outside at the club, plus you're outside shopping, plus you're doing whatever. And it's like a lot of these guys have more money than God, but don't want to think about this shit or don't know how to think about it. So it's like, maybe I've seen it a million times, like the stylist is just like your friend from college who knew about sneakers and knew about clothes a little bit, right? So it's like, I have friends who are really, really talented stylists who work with ball players as well as musicians, actors, whatever. And I know guys who are stylists who like, you know, dress like themselves and are putting people in the worst clothes that they can find that are the most expensive, right? So it's like, there are two sides of that. But when I say Stylist Core, I mean the latter, of like dudes who like have more money than sense and think that being loud is style in itself.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I went into this video really hoping I could expose some sort of conspiracy in this whole thing. I went looking for proof that these brands, they're paying the stylists and they're giving all this stuff to the rappers and the athletes for free in order to astroturf this whole thing. Really just like pure industry plant type stuff. But I actually don't think that is fully the case. There is organic demand for these gaudy and overpriced pieces of clothing. It's just from a very hyper-specific market, but that market is so rich that it kind of keeps the entire engine chugging along here. Sure, maybe these brands do work really hard to forge connections with celebrities, but a lot of brands do that, to be honest. What's really going on here is that brands are incentivized to create these crazy hero pieces, the statement pieces, because some of these guys, they have more money than sense, and they're totally down to wear a crazy statement piece leather jacket with crazy statement piece paint splattered distressed jeans with crazy statement piece rhinestoned sneakers and all this jewelry and chrome hearts, yada yada down the chain. And when you're willing to spend essentially an unlimited amount of money to look like that, people are going to fill in the gaps to provide that market. People are going to be knocking down the doors to be the source of that supply because there's a lot of money in it, to be honest with you. So does this stuff even look good? Like, okay, sure, you can put on the velvet rock and roll Western shirt here and pull off a really nice Eddie Boy punk rock and roll look with the Saint Laurent studded jeans, some nice pointed toe leather shoes, all that stuff. Yeah, totally works. Or you can pull off more of a salt-of-the-earth American bohemian type of look with the $6,000 suede jacket here. And this one I actually really did have to work at because I realized you can't wear any sort of shirt with like a logo or print or anything underneath. You can't wear any sort of pants that have the studding or any crazy distressing or paint splattering or anything. I had to wear these blue jeans, which, by the way, these are vintage Wranglers with this weird Native American print on the front and a weird like printed patch on the back. If you know anything about these or would like to buy them, please hit me up because I'd really like to know. Instagram is low luxury clothing. But anyway, these jeans with a Visvim Henley underneath, yeah, totally works. But actually my favorite of the whole bunch is the Sashiko bomber jacket, which is weird because it was my least favorite on the hanger. But I just like it because it works in a general street style. Like it's pretentious while being unpretentious. Like I could go buy groceries in this. If I tried to go buy groceries in the fuzzy button down or the suede jacket, I would be a sociopath. You can't do that. But I could buy groceries in this bomber, no problem. And I think actually that explains this whole Stylist Core thing better than anything else, because this is stuff that looks really good as a singular hero piece on the rack. And because it's a crazy hero piece at a luxury boutique, it has the price to match. But if you're looking to make these work in an actual wardrobe, not as part of a tunnel fit or a stage outfit as a rapper, you might have a harder time. That's not to say that it can't work. Every single one of these pieces can work, but I think these brands have some work to do to have that kind of cachet going for them. And by the way, you're only getting this few seconds of the Earthling VIP fit because it's maybe the most embarrassing fit I've ever done in my life. So Stylist Core really is exactly as it sounds. Luke was dead on when he gave it that name in his caption. This is stuff that is tailor-made for a very specific audience, and any of us, like myself, that now owns this jacket and some of these other pieces, we're just kind of picking up the scraps and the pieces when it's really not for us. You know what I mean? And these people buying this stuff, they don't care that the narrative of these brands has not been laid. The world of the brand has not been built because they don't care about that feeling. They don't understand, honestly, a lot of the time, that feeling that we get when we put on a garment from one of these storied brands or designers that have built these worlds. They see the price tag. And, you know, for them, if it's gaining them cachet in their world, getting them more headlines, more posts or likes on Instagram, great. Then it's serving its purpose for them. But we've just got to make sure that we're not like feeding into this machine too much, because I do think it needs to be tempered just a little bit. All right, that's all I got. Peace.